already. But of course, as we remember from last year, they move around within this area. There is no area that they stick to sort of religiously or permanently at all. And because we've had so much rain up here in the last little while, so they've come back into this area. And I remember last year, of course, most of our great highlights happened in the middle of September. So we still have, I would say, a good 4 weeks of migration action up here in the Northern Triangle. And it just depends which parts of the Northern Triangle get rain over the next little while. I'm afraid the Sausage Tree Pride has eluded us because the signal, aka the gremlins, is not able to extend as far as where we think those lions are. We could easily have driven past them within sort of 2 or 3 meters, given the length of the grass, but I don't think we have. So we'll go and search probably of the Mugoro Pride and possibly the Paradise Pride as well. Jackie, you want to know what their horns are made out of? Their horns, Jackie, are made out of dark chocolate. And it's one of the great delicacies of the wildebeest migration, of course, is finding a set of dark chocolate horns in the grass to snack upon with your morning coffee. I am obviously talking rubbish. They are made on top of keratin, so that's keratin on the top there, and underneath the keratin there is bone. And you can, basically the best way to find out what they are, if you have access to a farm or some cattle somewhere around where you are, they have exactly the same sort of design as cattle horns. There is a bone inside with a keratin sheath over the top. And that is what in fact defines a horn on an antelope versus an antler on a deer, which of course is not bony, it is cartilaginous and falls off. And if you knock a horn off, or if another wildebeest eats your chocolate horn, then unfortunately it does not grow back again. And some of the older wildebeest who have made this trip up to the Mara, maybe say up to 10 or 11 times, well, sometimes they have no horns at all, and often they have one missing from the fighting that they've engaged in, and just general wear and tear. You can see still lots of grass around, and although it looks quite brown on your screen there, it's a lot greener, I think, than it looks there, and there's a lot of green stuff in amongst the long grass patches here. We're going to continue up north a little bit and then head down towards the Mara River, and while we do that, I believe Byron has, arrived at Lake Treehouse.
Oh, now, at least James got to tell us the difference with about some of the animals they get there, and the difference between like the waterbuck and the wildebeest, obviously. I'm trying to do a bit of birding around here quickly, just to see if there isn't something we can add to the list. We're at one of the dams at the moment. I can hear Cokie Franklin calling in the distance, but it sounds like it's in the thicket, in the bush. So I don't think we're going to have any luck with that. We'll sing it right now. We'll try and find one though in the next few days. Got about a week left to try and see how many birds we can see add to our list. Like I said, the thing with the bird challenge, that's the Egyptian goose, but we've obviously got that. The thing with the birding challenge is I've got to get it on camera, which is not always easy. So we see all the birds, but to get them on camera before they fly off is quite difficult. Oh, there's a new one, Seb, that just landed. Did you see in this little thin tree on the edge over here, on the left-hand side at about 3 o'clock in that tree?
This one, yeah.
You go up. No, sorry, the taller tree.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, so go up there on the left-hand side there. Let's see if it's still there. It's still there, straight in the center of the screen. Lower down, there we go. A golden-breasted bunting. I was hoping to find one of those around here. So that's another one for the list, golden-breasted bunting. I think I'm on 55 now, is that right, Megs? 55 birds on camera. That's okay. That's okay. We're ticking them over slowly but surely. Obviously, as the numbers increase, it becomes a bit more difficult. Oh. Apparently I'm on 56. Alright. With the golden-breasted bunting, 56. Are you sure, Megs? Oh, that's great. 56 birds. Awesome. Now, we've got to do a bit of a time lapse here quickly too. Seb, what is the time lapse for exactly? Is it so you're just taking photos? I think what Sebastian has been doing is taking the same photo every day from the same position around the same time, and then he's going to do a time lapse to show. Is it to show how the bush changes or seasonal changes? So to show the difference from winter through spring and into summer, which is really cool. So I think that's going to come out really nicely. So Sebastian has been taking some pictures every day from 2 different spots at the same time, and we'll see how that gets put together. I'm scanning around. It's so nice and peaceful just to sit around the waterhole for a while and see what potentially comes down to drink or. I think let's go across to James, who's apparently doing some birding in the Mara too.
We are attempting some birding, everybody. There is the silhouette of a bird. Could we zoom in on it slightly, as artistic as that picture is, Manu? Thank you very much indeed. Now, what bird do you think it is? Hashtag Safari Live. I'm not going to wait for you to answer it, everybody. I want to tell you. It is a brown snake eagle, found at Djuma, and I suspect it was probably number 23 or so on Byron's list of 100, which is now at 56, I believe, which is quite impressive for the winter months. With any luck, he should get 1 or 2 specials that have come back. I wonder if he's got Wahlberg's eagle. They should be back now, 1 or 2 of them. Perhaps a yellow-billed kite or 2. That's a youngster. It's got a slightly pale whiteness on its shoulder, but you can't see that because of the light as it is now. Good. All right, let's have just a little spy around for the scenery, because, of course, in the Masai Mara, one has only to point the camera somewhere to be astounded by the beauty of the scene. First of all, let me say hello to you again. Very good. Now, let's go across straight over the top there to what is known as Serena. That is the headquarters of the Mara Triangle, and in between here and there, a great expanse of creatures, and that gathering of vehicles there is not a convention of gypsies. No, we think it is perhaps a lion sighting, so we're going to head down towards there. They're just off the Mara River, and see if we can't get lucky. There is an area not too far from there that is used as a, well, not to put too fine a point on it, a business stop, really, and I don't think that's it. I think that's probably some kind of large cat sighting, so we're going to head down that way now. In between there and here, a huge expanse of land that doesn't seem to be hugely being used by the herds. Now, Chandler, you're asking how many bird species can be found in the Mara. The official... My goodness gracious me. Manu, if you just go over the... Chandler, I will get back to your question now. Follow my finger, Manu. As far as you can to where the light has touched. Even further than that. And to the left. Keep going left. Chandler, I haven't forgotten about you, I promise. Left, left, left. There. Look how many animals there are there. That's where the big herds are at the moment. Fascinating. All right, we'll get in amongst them at some stage too. Chandler, there are supposed to be 470 species of bird found in the Mara Triangle. Now, that will vary from year to year. Sometimes there will be that many, sometimes there will be more. There's been a pretty good rain year that generally brings out a whole lot of insects and seeds and things that will attract further numbers of nomadic birds, so it's quite possible that it's sitting at around 472 this year. But that's what it is, roughly. Good. Okay, let's carry on. We're going to head down towards where I think that lion sighting is, and then we'll get in amongst those herds, because something must want to eat them, I would imagine. Let's carry on down here. You're going to drive with me for a little while. We haven't done much driving, you and I, of late. I was just thinking about the wildebeest horns and thinking that actually, no, dark chocolate was a bad thing to describe them as. Licorice would have been much more accurate. So I apologize for that. Shiny licorice. But licorice just isn't very nice. It astounds me that some people enjoy it. It's like coriander, really. Completely gorgeous afternoon as usual, and because Fergus is on the vehicle with us as well, I have no doubt we'll get caught in a storm at some stage during the course of the afternoon. Now, what I want to do is just get a little bit closer. Oh no, our brown snake eagle has now disappeared. It's a bit sad. Alright, never mind, we have some zebra coming up. Some Grant's zebra. So let's stop and have a look at them. And I must just say again, I mean, I was thinking about that discussion you were having with Byron, there is some zebra over there, about what occurs in the Sabi Santa that it does not occur here. And of course, just about everything that looks the same is actually a different subspecies. So for example, the zebra could happily interbreed with the Birchall zebra that you have at Djuma, but they are a different subspecies because they've been separated geographically for sufficient time for their genetics to have diverged to the extent that they are now different subspecies. So the lions here are sometimes, by some researchers, considered to be different subspecies, and that would go for just about anything that lives here and does not, or that lives here and lives in the at Djuma. Very nice. Now, I believe that Scott has managed to find himself a cat that has possibly lost. It's got a collar.
Yes, we have indeed found what could be a lost spotted cat somewhere out in the long grass ahead of us, and we just thought we would give you an idea of how well these animals blend in to their surroundings. It's tucked away right here in a little bush, and we've literally just arrived here. So all I can tell you is that it's a cheetah, and like James says, it has a collar on. Now, a lot of you, hello, you obviously know just how to work the camera. Thank you for turning over. Now, a lot of you may have already met D'Artagnan. He is a cheetah with a collar, and I'm not sure if this is a different male who is also collared or if it is, in fact, D'Artagnan. I doubt it is him. The reason being is I did check in with one of the cheetah researchers this morning who has access to his GPS collar, and she said that they were still, him and his coalition of 4 were still much further north in the conservancies that surround the Mara Reserve and the Mara Triangle. So I'm guessing that this is another male that we have yet to meet. Now, we would be able to work it out by looking at the spots on his face, but I sadly don't have any of my other photographs of him with me here. If it in fact was D'Artagnan, but I don't think it is. Judging by his belly, he does seem quite full-bellied. And interestingly, this guy was actually seen crossing the Mara River this morning. So he did come from the side of the river where D'Artagnan and his coalition do spend time, on the eastern side of the river. And wouldn't that have been wonderful to see, this cheetah having to cross the mighty Mara River? We saw the coalition of 5 crossing a smaller river just a few nights ago. Some of you would have seen that footage, but it's certainly not nearly as daunting a task as crossing the Mara River. And I'm really looking forward to working out who this could be. But for now, very, very fortunate to have a cheetah on the side of the river. There certainly hasn't seemed to be very many that we've seen here compared to the other side. And what a pleasant, pleasant surprise. I am a little bit concerned, though, because of his full belly. because it may mean he is going to continue sleeping for quite some time. While he sleeps, though, we can show you some other animals that are also roaming through the plains. We can start off with a herd of elephants, which are probably about 3 o'clock wildebeest, just in the sunlight there. I love watching elephants in this open landscape because you get a good idea of just how big they are. Beautiful. And quite a large herd of wildebeest to the left of them. So there is a lot of game in this area, not just the cheetah, and beautiful expansive views. Sounds like Byron has found another bird to add to his list, and he would like to share exactly what it is with you.
Oh, that's wonderful, Scott. It sounds like he's seeing a lot up there at the moment, and we've got a new bird for the list. Wonderful, a white-browed scrub robin. And that's one of James's favourite birds. We've been hearing it a lot. Just haven't seen one, but this one's posing beautifully for us. So that's another one to the list. And James was saying he's quite impressed. We got up to, well, now 57 birds. Thank you, James. And James, I haven't seen the Wahlberg's eagle yet. You were wondering if Wahlberg's eagle has perhaps returned yet. I haven't seen one, not yet anyway, but I'll keep a lookout for it. Wahlberg's eagles are one of the first birds to return in the spring from migrating. Beautiful melodious call of the white-browed scrub robin. Isn't that nice? That's another one for the list. I'm getting really excited about all these different birds that we see. Still, my favourite so far that we've seen was definitely that scarlet-chested sunbird. I haven't seen one of those for a long time, and to see that was really exciting. You know what, everyone, I'm going to just check here quickly. It's one of the holes where we do see a genet from time to time. Let's have a look. Let's have a look if it's here. No sign. No one home. No, not this afternoon. No sign of a genet. Oh, that's okay. Sorry, I thought I heard a bird calling. Little owl. I can hear a pearl-spotted owlet. All right, now I'm going to see if I can find it. Let's head back across to James, who's also doing some birding on that side.
This is very exciting. This is a grey-backed fiscal, everybody. And it is just catching itself a grasshopper, I think. Yes, there it is. Now, it looks a little bit like a lesser grey shrike, but the lesser grey shrike, of course, has got a, well, slightly greyer back, and is also not blessed with a tail of anything like that length. Isn't that nice? That's definitely one that you do not find at Djuma, with his little bandit's mask. Many of the shrike species have bandit's masks, of course. I'm not sure why that should be the case. I'm going to refrain from trying to make any twee or corny jokes about how they make a living, etc. But you can surmise them from what I've said. Now here comes another one, that very unattractive call, squawk, squawk, squawk. It's flown away. Oh, there are two of them there, Manu. Manu, there are two of them over there. Very nice. In fact, they're quite common around here. That's not the one I was looking at, but that'll do. You found another one. In fact, where I'm sitting, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. That is quite a lot of lesser grey fiscals, or grey fiscals. Oh, Manu, sit very still. We're being charged. Look in front. It's coming straight towards us. Thankfully, it's moved off now. The threat is over. I may now answer Carol's question of whether or not we find secretary birds in this area. We absolutely do, Carol. We've seen, how many? We've seen 2 today already. So there are a lot of them around. Thank you for that, Carol. He seems to be at the head of a small line of zebra that are moving away from the river, going towards the escarpment. And this chap is not a youngster by any stretch. Now, I've noticed a few of these zebra, and in fact I read about this before I saw it. Look how short his mane is. And I don't think that's the result of wear and tear. Some zebra, apparently in the Mara, do not have manes. And we saw one earlier today with a mane even more brush cut than that. And I say he's not young because of the wrinkles on his neck and his muzzle. Now, here can the rest of them come up here. Kevin, you want to know why we're unable to ride zebras. Kevin, that's actually a really interesting question. And for those of you who are thinking to yourselves, well, I mean, obviously we're in the Masai Mara, that's why we can't ride the zebras, you would be correct. But zebra have... There have been various attempts to domesticate zebra. There was a lord, in fact, who moved to Cape Town at one stage and insisted that his carriage be drawn through the streets of that very windy and somewhat snobbish city by zebra. And he succeeded, but I suspect quite strongly that the members of his staff set to wrangling the zebra were blessed with many bruises, cuts and broken bones. Zebra are inherently not prone to domestication. They evolved, much like buffalo, in Africa, which means that they evolved with human beings, and their evolution with human beings meant that they know us as hunters. They know us only as a threat. They know us as predators. And because of that, and unlike, say, we'll talk about domesticated animals a bit later, because of that, they have an inherent fear of us, and to get them to, not even raising them from real youngsters can make them get over that. And interestingly, zebra kill, or certainly hurt, more zookeepers and zoo workers around the world than any other animal, including things like tigers. So they're not domesticatable. People talk about the fact that their backs are a bit weak and that sort of thing, but it's got much more to do with their temperament than it does to do with their physicality, because of course you could breed zebra to have strong backs. You could find a strong one and breed it with another strong backed one, and eventually you'd probably end up with something as strong as a horse. Now, if you go outside of Africa into, say, the Fertile Crescent, where goats and sheep and cows, for example, were domesticated, well, then you find animals that were much more docile by the time human beings tried to start domesticating them, which was about 20,000 years ago or so. And during that period, they found something called an auroch, and an auroch is the precursor to all modern-day cattle. And because they had not evolved in an environment where humans were the apex predator, they did not show anything like the fear that these animals did, or that, for example, buffalo did for human beings. Now, a wonderful example of that, of course, is the great buffalo herds of the plains of the United States, where when people arrived with guns, and in fact you can read accounts of this, they just stand there, those enormous herds, while, you know, the hunters, well, let's call them butchers, for that's what they were, while they just picked them off. They didn't run away, they didn't show any fear for humanity, because they hadn't evolved with human beings. So that's why you'll find that no African animal has ever been successfully domesticated to the point of it being useful. Isn't that interesting? And if you want to know more about this and put in a much more eloquent and succinct way, you can go across to read a book by Jared Diamond called Guns, Germs and Steel. That's Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs and Steel. Now, Rebecca told me to link to somebody. I had no idea to whom we're going to link, so let's go across to them now.
Oh, look at this, everyone. A pearl-spotted owlet Now, I've been looking around for these little owls to add to the list, and I managed to find one in a large acacia. 58, awesome, and what a lovely little bird to add to the list, the pearl-spotted owlet. I heard him calling and managed to spot him in the tree. Beautiful, look at that, those yellow eyes and those very prominent black markings on the back of the head. There you can see them clearly. Wow, it's actually really, really well hidden. If you have a look where he is sitting in this knobthorn, look at that, so well hidden. There it is. Awesome, awesome. That is really great. Another one to add to our list, and a beautiful bird. As I said, I always enjoy seeing these little owls. We've still got a few more owls we can try get on camera. Lorena, you say, way to go, Byron. Thank you very much, Lorena. Yeah, that is awesome. Birding challenge. Francis, thank you. You say you think I'm the best at getting owls. All the other guides, though, managed to find the owls too. Taylor and Tristan. And Ali, I suppose, yeah. I wonder if the guys have seen many owls in the Mara. I don't know. I haven't heard if they've seen any owls up there. I might just have a look to see if that giant eagle owl is still around too. James, you were asking when can we expect to see the arrival of the Ammer falcons? James, let me just double check. I think around October, November. James, let me just double check for you quickly. Hold on, I'm going to stop here. Now, the little Ammer falcons, beautiful falcons. Let's see, James. November, actually. James, around November. So that's when we're probably going to see the Ammer falcons. Let me show you a picture of them. Those little birds over there. And you tend to see them in small flocks from time to time. You see a number of them together. Always nice seeing those little Ammer falcons. And let me just show you distribution. There we go. So they do occur in this area. But as you can see just over there, November, December, January, February, March. Around there, right in summer, that's when we'll start seeing them. So James, only then. Only then. As I said, I wonder actually, why don't we drive down to Chitwa Dam? Go and see what's going on down at the dam, and then we'll make our way back to those lions a little bit later this afternoon. I think that's our plan for this afternoon. I do enjoy kind of having a basic plan when you are driving around, and the reason for that is it gives you an idea of what you're going to be doing. Plans always change out in the bush, but it's nice to have a plan to start off with, and then if you vary, it's not a problem, but it's nice to have an idea. Seb, do you just want to move off to the left there quickly? Next one, we just drive past this car. Thank you. Thanks, Seb. So we'll see what birds we can get at Chitwa Dam. Hopefully we get a few more species there. Just going to go through a bit of a dip through the Mulawati. Let me just go down here quickly. All right, well, let's head across to Scott again in the Mara, and apparently a mystery teacup.
Yes, we do have a bit of a mystery on our hands here as to who this cheetah could be. I have tried to get a hold of the researchers to find out if they've got any idea who he is, but it seems that we are in a bit of a low-lying Wi-Fi area, which makes communicating a little bit difficult with other people, but I will try and continue to work out who in fact he is and where he usually hangs out, and if he does come across the Mara River often, and I'll be sure to let you guys know. But I think we are going to head off and continue with our mission towards the Salt Lick. Hello, Lillian, who's just 3 years old. I am very happy to hear you love cheetah. So do I. And I hope we'll be able to show you more cheetah as the weeks go on, and hopefully ones that you can see a little bit better than this one, but it is a good example of how they can disappear into the grass, which helps them to sneak up on their food. Very good. We are going to head off, like I say. We need to head further south. This guy doesn't seem like he's going to be up too much, and it does look like he's got quite a full belly. So we're going to head on and see where and what we can find further south. Aya, Santisana Mingi, Kwaheru. So, for those of you who do not speak Kiswahili, I just said Aya, which means it's kind of like, that's not much of a road, that's a hippo path, so we'll go back onto the track that we came in on. So I just said Aya, which is kind of like, I don't know how to describe it it's kind of like okay. You'd say it at the end of a conversation with somebody as you part ways. It's like, okay. And then I said asante sana, which means thank you very much. Sana means very much in Kiswahili. So it can be duma sana, cheetah very much. That's not a good example. And kwaheri at the end was goodbye. Kwaheri means goodbye. And there was just a warden there who was keeping an eye on that cheetah and making sure only the relevant people off-road for it. Certain people can off-road and certain people cannot, depending on, I guess, a number of different things. And they are just making sure that people stick to the rules, which is very, very good. What a magical evening it is, and looking forward to spending a couple of hours out after dark. Like I said a little bit earlier, James and myself are going to continue trying to get you guys into the best possible position to see any action once this sunset safari comes to a close. And speaking of James, we are going to send you back onto his vehicle for an update on how things are going there.
It is indeed a very magical evening, and if we look over to the right-hand side over there, let me just get my fat bonce out of the way. Here I go. You can see there we have got a storm brewing, as I said. I hope it won't reach us, but it certainly is making the sky a very attractive grey colour. There was a time when I was a youth, of course, that I thought grey was a very boring colour, but now, as I've become increasingly boring with old age, so I find grey a rather attractive colour. Now, we have heard reports of 2 young male lions. I think I know which young males they are. I haven't seen them for a while. Been driving around here looking for them for a few weeks now, and they're on the river, and so we're going to see if we can't catch up with them and then see what they do as darkness begins to fall and the terrors start to come. Gorgeous scenes there, the golden grass and the wildebeest dotted in amongst, and a small copse of trees. Copse is a nice word, is it not, Manu? Proper, he says. I agree. Rondre, of course, until right now didn't know what a copse was. Now, Pole, I'm just going to get a spelling in that from Rebecca. You want to know if animals ever cross from reserve to reserve in Africa. Now, there are two things to ask you further before I can answer your question. And while I ask you that, I'm going to ask Manu to look over there. There's a warthog who thinks he can't be seen. Paul, yes, obviously they do. They can, of course, cross from reserve to reserve. But I'm wondering if you're perhaps considering whether or not animals could cross from the Mara to Djuma. And that answer would be no, because, of course, there are 3 or 4 countries between us and Djuma. And so, no, they wouldn't go that far. But absolutely, in this area, you know, there are no fences. And so this entire vast Serengeti Mara ecosystem is unfenced. And so although it is nominally smaller than the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, of which Djuma is a very small piece on the western fringes, it is potentially much larger because there are no fences. There is nothing to stop the animals going further north into community lands, and indeed they do that. And I'm not sure if you've been watching the TV series, but we had a lion expert from the north of Kenya a little while back, about 2 weeks ago, and she does a lot of research with people who live amongst lions. So they have their herds of cattle and goats and camels, believe it or not, up in the northern parts of Kenya. And there they live amongst the lions. And so, yes, animals do cross out of the reserves, between reserves, and into areas where human beings live. And if you go to a place like Botswana, into the northern parts of Botswana, there's a town called Kasane, which often has elephants walking through the high street, although high street is a strong term for what it is. And if you go to Victoria Falls, for example, on the banks of the mighty Zambezi River, where the smoke thunders, of course, you will find elephants walking through town there. And so there are lots of places in Africa where animals are able to cross out of reserves into towns and into other reserves. But there's no sort of fixed rule as to how that happens or where it happens. But I always quite like the thought that there could be an elephant outside the front door, even if you live in a sort of human settlement or village. I always think that's quite nice. I don't suppose everyone thinks that's quite nice, but I do. Okay, let's carry on. Oh, so hang on, before we carry on, there's a tipple skirtshie walking across the plains there. There's a giraffe. Can you see it there, Manu? It's quite far in the distance. It's not very close. But I always think that giraffe give the best possible sense of space in an area like this. There we go. Marvellous. As we absorb the piece of the scene that Manu is creating for us, let us head across to Scott, who I believe has got a number of security guards on the prowl.
Sadly, they have prowled themselves. Oh, there's one that's just popped out into a better view temporarily. But yes, some banded mongooses are doing their business. They live in large family groups of about 20 to 30. And sadly, all of them have just skedaddled into that long grass. They were in this kind of open clearing just before they disappeared. But no joy. There are quite a few of them in the Mara, and loving being able to see them, because even though you do get them in Djuma, you don't see them very often. So looking forward to spending more time with them in the coming weeks. For now, we are sending you back to a big crocodile in Djuma.
Wow, now we also have some big crocodiles around here, not as many as the Mara have, but have a look at this beautiful big crocodile sunning itself on the bank. Scott, I'm so sorry about that link about a mystery teacup. I didn't hear Megan properly. It's the mystery cheetah you were speaking about. Don't know where I got teacup from, but anyway. Scott must have thought I've lost the plot completely. Look at those teeth. Now, this is a big crocodile. But I know that the team in the Mara see crocodiles much bigger than this. They are monsters up there. I wonder, can we get those, the top right-hand side of the tree? It's a bit difficult now with the lights, but let's see if we can get those up there. Those are lesser striped swallows. And it's difficult to make them out, but I can guarantee they are because I heard them calling. That little one, though, isn't. Those two that flew away were lesser striped swallows. That is something else. Can I tell you, it's just a silhouette. I can't make out any colour or anything on that bird. So I'm not even going to hazard a guess. Don't know, unless it's a... you know what, I can't see anything. I've got a silhouette. But those lesser striped swallows I could see earlier. And this bird has puffed up its feathers and got its back to us. Sorry everyone, I can't make out what that is. I'm not going to even try hazard a guess. But the lesser striped swallows are nice, and I'll actually play their call for you. They've got a lovely call, quite easy to identify. Hold on a second. While we have a look at that beautiful crocodile who's still... And the hippo. Look, actually, sorry, Seb, there's a lot of hippo activity. A lot of hippo, look at that. Let me play this lesser striped swallow call for you. Quite a distinct call, quite easy to identify. So that was... It's funny. Some of the lesser striped swallows are here year round and in certain areas, and then they move around a bit. But that call of the lesser striped swallow is quite distinct. Now, Francis, you asked if I've ever seen this crocodile kill something. No, Francis, I haven't. Wow, look at that light coming through now. Beautiful afternoon light. I haven't seen this crocodile feeding on anything. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it catches some fish. Anything that comes down to drink, I'm sure, is potential prey. But I haven't seen him feed this. I'm not sure if it's the male or female. I think they actually don't know exactly how many crocodiles there are here. But I'm not sure if this is a male or female. Apparently, there is a pair there is a pair that they do see here. Because I was chatting to one of the managers here the other day, and he said he's seen them mating. So it's a male and female. Oh, this fish eagle's about to fly over us. There it goes. Well done, Seb. Oh, amazing. That was wonderful. Well done, Seb. That was so quick. Oh, yes. Look at that. You see, throw the head back as it called. It really throws that head right back. Amazing. Oh, that was perfect timing. Well, there it goes. Catch something for us. Come on. No. Not interested. Oh, you never know. Wouldn't it be amazing to watch a fish eagle catch something? Let's see if it calls again. That's beautiful light, and great stuff. Seb, well done following that fish eagle. That's amazing. Mr. P from Canada, you say vultures versus eagles, which is more powerful, which is stronger? Well, vultures are much larger, And the vultures, the power of their beaks, their talons, they are very powerful. So I would have to say vultures, purely because of size. But I think a bird with the strongest talons actually is a eagle, and that is the crowned eagle. That has probably the most powerful talons out of any bird of prey here.
Like this one.
Which one is it? Yep, the three-banded plover. We've got that. Thanks, Seb. Beautiful to see them, though. Look at that. And they're also in this wonderful light. Now, a bird we haven't seen here for quite some time, but does occur in this area. Scott has found it in the Mara, and this one definitely won't fly away.
Well, yes, certainly very, very lucky that we are enabled to show you creatures that occur throughout Africa, both on Djuma and the Mara, but certainly the populations thereof differ greatly. Ooh, looks like it's heading towards, I don't know what's in the ground there, some smaller birds that seem to be a little bit worked up, but it's just trod straight past them. I'm not sure if it was a francolin or a kind of a lapwing. What is that in there? It looks like a wattled lapwing, possibly. Yeah, it looks like it, or a crowned lapwing. And maybe it's got its nest in there, but wasn't too concerned that the ostrich waltzed on past. Beautiful, beautiful scenes as it cruises through the open plains. This is a male. Similar colors to the fish eagle you've just seen, but like Byron says, this bird certainly cannot fly. And I'm very happy that you did get to see the fish eagle also calling. I love the way they droop their head when they call in flight. This guy's taking a moment to catch its breath and cool off, it looks like, having its mouth open there. They pant like dogs do when they heat up, as do all birds, as they cannot sweat to cool off like us. Hello, Bobby. You'd like to know if I've ever come across an ostrich's nest, and sadly, no, I have not. And only on a few occasions have I actually seen ostrich chicks. They are the cutest little things on the planet. Huge, clunky legs and very cryptically colored bodies, which helps them blend in if and when there are any threats. But no, I have not seen an ostrich nest. They're incredible things, and interestingly, multiple females can lay their eggs in one nest, but only one male will assist in the incubation thereof, and also usually only the main female. So beta females will be allowed to lay their eggs within the nest, but they won't really be involved too much in the incubation. And interestingly, the female, the alpha female, who is in charge of the nest, will push the beta female's eggs out to the outskirts and have her eggs right in the middle. So quite an interesting setup, and they've got multiple, like I said, females possibly laying in one nest, and they can be anywhere between 20 and 30 eggs, but again, a lot depends on where in Africa you are viewing them. And you also do get a subspecies of ostrich. You get the southern ostrich, or the common ostrich, like this one over here, which has got a very pink neck and legs. And then you also, not far north from here, start getting the Somali ostrich, which has got a very bluish colored neck and legs. So you do get two subspecies. I was lucky enough to see the Somali ostriches up in an area called Samburu, where I was working before I came back to Safari Live here in the Mara. Paula, you would like to know if ostriches migrate, and no, they don't, not as far as I'm aware. The only main animals that migrate, at least in this migration, are the wildebeest, of course. They are the most numerous. Then the zebra. Then the Thompson's gazelle. Those are the three main species that are doing large movements or migrating. The rest of them will just be doing kind of seasonal movements, short movements, as and when there's food or mating, but it all depends, again, on the individual species. Hello, Penny. Just 6 years old. You would like to know, why do ostriches have such long necks? And I guess it's because they've got such long legs. And if they didn't have long necks, it would be very, very difficult for them to feed. Like you can see it feeding now. It can now reach the floor. But if it had a short neck, it would be very difficult for it to be able to get to its food. So then the next question that we need to ask ourselves is, why do they have very long legs? And that's so that they can run quickly, because they cannot fly. So these long legs allow them to move very, very quickly and avoid being eaten by lion, leopard, and cheetah. Well, at least it helps them to avoid being eaten. But they will be attacked by, most often, lion when they're fully grown. It's when they're youngsters that they are very, very vulnerable to other predators like snakes and jackals, even the smaller cats like serval and caracal. But once they're fully grown, they don't have too much to worry about, like I say, other than lions, and they can run very, very quickly. It's actually hilarious when they run. They wave that long neck from side to side and put their wings up and out from side to side. They have got a very, very unique way of running. Not always. They sometimes just run normally with their heads up, but they also do have a kind of a display that they do when they run, maybe when guys like this are trying to impress the ladies. Beautiful. Okay, well, it sounds like Byron does not want to leave that crocodile until it shows him his first crocodile kill on Djuma. So why don't you go and see what it's up to?
Now, we're still sitting at the dam doing a bit of birding. It's such a beautiful afternoon. There's golden light at the moment. Still enjoying this crocodile. There's just a great view of him. Or her, I'm not sure. Now, LMI, that's an interesting question. You asked which bite is more dangerous, a hippo or a crocodile? I wonder. So I think the bite force of the crocodile is stronger, because the downward force that the crocodile would bite with, I think, is more powerful than that of a hippo. However, the hippo will move its jaws or open its mouth really wide, and therefore it can get those huge teeth into you. That's a tricky one. I don't know. I'm trying to think, if I had to be bitten, what would I rather be bitten by? That's the best way of trying to work it out. Now, I'm not sure. Seb, what do you think? I mean, a hippo will put an entire hole through you, but then possibly let go and move on and run away. A crocodile, if it bites you, if it grabs you, will try and twist and pull a limb off or pull you under. Sure. See, the crocodiles don't chew, but they'll just try to snap once or twice and pull you under. Whereas a hippo will open and close its mouth a number of times and bite you. Put it this way. Either way, you're in trouble. You're in serious trouble. It's just... there's some playful behavior by those two hippo. Didn't look like serious fighting or anything. That whole pod is congregated around that area at the moment. We saw some pied wagtails around here earlier, but they flew off Unfortunately, I'm hoping that they decide to come back. Scanning around, having a look for different birds. Now we know there is an African harrier hawk nest on Chitwa, and I might drive past there just now, just to go and have a look and see if we can't see that bird. We haven't been lucky. The past 2 or 3 occasions we've driven past, we haven't seen it. But maybe this afternoon, you never know. Sinak, you asked if the fish eagles would feed on the little crocodiles or crocodile eggs. So not the eggs, Sinak. I doubt that. The reason I say that is the crocodiles bury their eggs. So to find the nest it is impossible for the fish eagle. In terms of little crocodiles, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the fish eagles really feed on reptiles that often. I mean, some reptiles, but I want maybe a crocodile and even a water monitor. There's a possibility that it could try feed on a water monitor, but it doesn't happen often. Well, not that I've seen, but I mean, the fish eagles will also feed on small mammals or prey that wanders down to the water's edge, perhaps. They also scavenge. The fish eagles will scavenge off carcasses from time to time, anything that's died near or around the water. Now, I think I'm going to go and have a look, see if we can find that African harrier hawk. Why don't we go across to James, who apparently has an artistic view on some grass in the wind.
This is the most exciting thing you will ever see in the Masai Mara. What we have here in amongst the waving columns of grass are 2 lions, one of which is wagging its tail. If you can believe it, I know you didn't expect to have your heart in your throat throughout the course of this drive, but here we sit with a wagging lion tail in amongst the grass. Fascinating. Well, I had to sort of try and build this up a little bit. There's a head up, left. Look at this. What we have here, everybody, are the 2 young male lions who've been knocking about here. They've been beaten up once or twice by dominant males of the area, and they have also been eating many wildebeest. They are currently in what is known as a non-off-roading zone. That means a zone in which there is not allowed to be any off-roading. But I'm hoping that come the end of the drive, or not the end of the drive, the end of the sun, they will get up and move towards something edible. And there are lots of herds not too far from them. So we'll sit with them for a little while and then perhaps come back here a bit later. Barbara, you're wondering if most cats live a nomadic life. Most male cats live a nomadic life. They don't at all, Barbara. Once they are mature, they are almost always territorial and they stop being nomadic. But before they're big enough to take a territory or dominate an area, then absolutely they will be nomadic. That goes for leopards, it goes for cheetah, it goes for that steamingly lazy cat who's just put his head back down, leaving us with the same excitement we began with. And it goes for African wildcats, it goes for house cats even. They will do exactly the same sort of thing. I'm trying to think of another kind of a cat, a serval. Yes, I think that would be the same. A tiger, yes, absolutely be the same. So all cats, male, if they're not adult, will become nomadic. But what's interesting also is that in an area such as, say, a fenced reserve, for example, like Pinda in South Africa, where they introduce lions and they have to manage the population quite carefully because it's not very big, what you'll find is that lions become territorial much more quickly than they would in an area like this, where there are big males dominating them. So, nice question. Thank you for that, Barbara. I think that this sighting has given us pretty much all that it's going to. And so we're going to move away from here, and I'm going to come back as the sun starts to set and see if we can't catch these 2 cats on the hunt. On we go. Are you ready, Manu?
Ready.
Good, thank you. Why do you sound like Joe Cocker? Right, well, I'll try and find out what on earth has happened to Manu's voice. We're going to go to Scott, who apparently is doing a cowboy thing into the sunset.
Hello. Yes, we are making our way hastily to an area called the Salt Lick. But seeing as though you guys have just joined us, we'll stop and enjoy the sighting of these elephants, of which there only appear to be 3 here, but there were some behind us, so they could be part of a bigger herd, but they've just kind of slightly spread out. Beautiful. I'm always very impressed by the size of the tusks of the females up here in the Mara. There are some impressive ladies. And well done, I'm glad James has found some lions, so that's promising prospects for him later. This is probably, the elephant on the right behind the 2 in the front is probably an older sibling. So this will be a mother with, I'm guessing, her 2 youngsters, just judging by the size of the 2 and the fact that there's just the 3 of them here. This one I'd guess to be around 5 or 6 years of age. And elephants, in general, will possibly give birth every 4 years. So this one will be around 4, and the other one would be roughly, possibly around 2 years of age. Beautiful. And I hear a lot of you are mentioning what a spectacular scene this is, and I can only agree. To be honest, there's not many scenes wherever we stop just about in the Mara. We are surrounded by beauty. Obviously, the time of day can possibly enhance one vista compared to other times of the day, and I guess now as the sun is beginning to set and we are reaching the golden hour, it will become more and more beautiful. The sun is about to drop down below some clouds, so we should have some golden sunlight poking through shortly. I always wonder, with the trees that you can see, there's no kind of small ones, there's just the big ones. So you wonder, how do they get to that size, and where is the next bunch of trees growing that is going to take their place when they die? Because there's no, like, in-betweeners. There's just big trees or no trees, which is grass. One other thing I would like to show you before Byron shows you his birds. I know Byron was discussing the vultures that you get in and around Djuma. And you do get these ones that you can see on that middle tree over there, but not very commonly. Here we see these lappet-faced vultures quite readily, the largest of the vultures. Very good. We are now going to rush across to James before his, Byron, before his bird flutters off.
Oh, wow, Scott, so you've got some great birds of prey or large scavengers over there, but have a look what we found. Look at this. The African harrier hawk busy gathering nesting material, breaking branches with its legs. This is amazing. Look at that. Let's see if it brings it to the nest. It's trying to hold on and get it loose. That little stick that it just broke now. Let's see if it flies across over here. Yes, and this is our 60th bird on camera. Oh, wow, look how... Did it catch it again? No, it missed it. I thought it managed to catch that branch again as it dropped it. Wow, this is a beautiful scene. And very interesting behavior. So I've seen where the nest is, and I will show it to you shortly. Maybe this bird flies back to the nest. But interesting to see how it's trying to gather nesting materials, small branches, to potentially take back and add on to the nest. Well, one of my favorite birds of prey. I do enjoy these African harrier hawks. It's very different in their movement and the way they hop around branches and trees from some of the other eagles and birds of prey. And there it goes. Hold on. Let me just move forward a little bit. I think we'll get a nice view through here, Seb. There we go. How's that? Is it good? Oh, I can hear a pearl-spotted owl calling. I wonder if we'd be able to find another little owlet. I think we've been so lucky already with some of the birds we've seen. It's always nice to see these little owls. If you can spot them, it's very difficult because they hide up in the canopies of the trees and they're not very big at all. Watch, look at this. See, Nax, so these African harrier hawks don't actually hunt on the ground as much. Well, they do sometimes, but they prefer raiding nests. Let's see if it takes off with this branch. So, as I said, they prefer raiding nests, so they will go and raid nests for chicks, for eggs. That's mainly what they feed on. And those agile legs, or very nimble legs, are able to bend, as you can see. Look at that, amazing. And it will then bend and stick that long neck. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Well done, Seb. Wow. Now, don't worry. It's probably going to fly behind us, but I'll reposition. Let's see. Oh, wow. Now, that isn't where the nest is. Hold on a second. I'm going to reposition quickly. I'll tell you why. Let me just drive away here a little bit. This is very, very interesting behavior. What I want to do is I want to turn around here quickly. And the reason for that is the nest wasn't too far behind us. So I don't want to disturb the eagle, this bird of prey, the hawk, African harrier hawk. So let's see, if I stop here, maybe it decides to go to the nest. There, it's flying, and exactly, it's now gone to the nest. There it is in the tree. The nest is just above it. Let's see if it climbs up there. It's hiding a little bit. Alright, well, I might sit here for a few more minutes watching this African harrier hawk. Let's quickly go back to James in the Mara, and he's managed to find a lion.
We have found a lion, a collared lion, and I don't think it's the same collared cat that Scott had. I think he had a cheetah. It had more spots than this one does. Now, there's some buffalo around here. I don't think he's going to have a go at them, but I believe that he's not the only one here. My colleagues who are getting a little rambunctious on the back of this vehicle tell me that there are at least 4 in amongst the grass here. I'm not sure that that is necessarily true, because I certainly haven't seen them, but there might be. And the buffalo are watching him quite carefully. I think we can probably move forward a bit. That's not a bad return, you know, 3 lions suddenly. They're not encircling these chaps. The buffalo, I mean. This man needs some parking lessons. In fact, I would suggest that he needs 5 or 6 parking lessons. Right, let's just get a little bit, I just want to get a little bit ahead of them so that we can see where he's going. I think he is actually stalking this buffalo, you know. I wonder if 1 or 2 haven't gone around the other side. Manu, I'm going to horribly unlevel your camera, and then it is going to level itself. There you go. There they come. Oh, come on. Really? Did you guys really see more lions than just that one? No. There's now some debate, everybody. Everyone's looking at each other saying, I didn't say that. No, oh, I didn't either. No, well, I don't know. There's only one lion. There he is. We'll keep an eye out just in case there aren't some others sneaking around the back to attack the buffalo, but I think not. Now, much the same as those other 2 youngsters, I think he will get up and possibly go hunting during the course of the evening. He might be a slightly better bet because I can see wildebeest not far from here. And I wonder if he isn't sort of moving towards them in the hopes that as night falls, he won't be able to get himself a bit of a meal. Now, Henk, you're wondering why it is necessary to put a collar on a lion. Well, Henk, much the same as my parents have put a collar on their dog Fenton. If he gets lost, of course, what happens is that somebody will pick him up and his phone number is on the little tag that he has on his collar. They'll phone my mum and dad and Fenton will be fetched in time for supper. Now, the same thing goes for this lion. Well, in a manner of speaking. The collar is to locate him. It has a sophisticated battery pack on it and it will give a ping with some elephants on the left there. Far left, Manu. Elephants. Big grey things. There we go. No, we've gone past them now. They're just over the top of the buffalo. Henk, what that collar does is give a ping, say once a day or once every 2 days, depending on what it's programmed to do. And that it's a GPS ping. It allows researchers to know exactly where he is, and there are a number of cats around here that have the same kind of collar. There's a huge amount of research that is done here. This is the first or second lion. It's the second lion I've seen with a collar. We know of at least 2 or 3 cheetah that have got collars on them, and that's just an easy way for the researchers to keep track on their movements, and instead of spending all their time sort of trying to find them, they can go straight to them and then assess what's going on. Penny, you're just 6 years old and you want to know how on earth do you get a collar on a lion? Well, that's a really good question because it's not easy to put a collar on a lion, is it? Because a lion is a very big animal and it doesn't really like people very much. So what they do, Penny, is they give it an injection, but they give it an injection with a special kind of, I'm going to use the word gun, but it's not something that hurts the lion. So what they do is they shoot an injection into the lion's bottom. He goes to sleep. And they quickly get out of the car, run over to him, put the collar on, tighten it up, and give him another little injection which wakes him up. And before he wakes up, they jump back in the car and pretend that they don't know what's going on. And that's how they put a collar on a lion. And these buffalo are now starting to move a little bit closer to him because, of course, they now can't see him. Now, what that means is that they have seen a predator walk past them. They're not afraid when they know where he is because they are... they're aware of how close he's getting, they're aware of what his strategy is. Once he disappears in amongst the grass, they start to think to themselves, well, is he stalking us? Could he be about to jump on one of us? And that's why they're walking slowly towards him. I don't think he's going to try and hunt them. I think that he is a bit small to be taking on a buffalo on his own, especially one of 3 big buffalo bulls. And unlike the wildebeest that we've watched sort of being devoured and killed and murdered by the predators of this area, the buffalo will defend each other. I've been amazed, especially watching Scott and his cheetah, how those wildebeest, one of them made one attempt to help his mates to no avail at one stage, but the rest of them just stand around and watch as the cheetah kill their colleagues. And I find it quite amazing because, of course, buffalo are blessed with, not buffalo, wildebeest are blessed with fairly sharp horns, and they don't seem to use them at all to protect each other. I find it a bit strange. Hello, William. You want to know how often Cape buffalo will attack lions. William, it's normally sort of 3 times a day, sometimes 4, sometimes 2. I'm obviously talking nonsense, William. It really does depend, William, on how often lions attack buffalo. And so if you go to a place like Djuma, you'll find the Nkuhuma pride attack buffalo on a fairly regular basis, and they therefore will be attacked in turn by buffalo more often than the lions here, especially at this time of year, because the lions here are leaving the buffalo alone. They're easier things to kill, and so they're spending their time hunting wildebeest, and that means that they don't come into contact with buffalo as much as they would in a place like the Kruger. So there's no way to say, 3 or 4 times a week or whatever it is, William. It just depends on how often they have an interaction together. It's quite a nice shot there, known as a 2-shot in the game. Alrighty, let's head across to Scott, who I believe has a beautiful scene, the same one that I'm having to look at past Gendre, so I think you'll probably get a better view where you are.
We certainly do have a magical scene unfolding here. We're not far from our final destination, an area called the Salt Lick, and we just thought we would stop and show you this beauty before we get there, and also before the sun disappears, and also before you head off to Djuma, where it sounds like Byron has found something very, very beautiful as well.
Ah, yes, look at this, everyone. What a treat. We just drove away from that that nest of the African harrier hawk, and Sebastian and I managed to spot this leopard on a termite mound. Isn't that amazing? I'm not sure which leopard this is. It looks like a young male. What a treat. Isn't this wonderful? When we did find him, he had his head up and he just put his head down and rested. I think if he didn't have his head up, we wouldn't have spotted him. This is really, really wonderful. Look at that. Yeah, we have been so lucky the last 2 days. Some amazing sightings down here in the Greater Kruger National Park. Lots of lion activity, leopards, elephant, just a lot going on. And I wonder if this isn't that young male tumber. I can't see very clearly. There's now a bush in front of his face. What do all of you think? Maybe some of the viewers can have a better look. There we go. It looks like him. It doesn't look as big as the other young male that we see in this area, as Hosanna. What do you think, everyone? Let me know. And we'll see. But nevertheless, just so wonderful to see a leopard lazing about on a termite mound. Now, leopards, I've seen leopards many, many times lying on top of termite mounds, and that's why when I drive around too, I often scan the tops of termite mounds. The reason for that is it's nice and comfortable, and it gives them a vantage point to have a look around an area. So this is very special. Megan says apparently it's 50-50 between Tamba and Hosanna. This young male is hiding his face now, so I can't tell, unfortunately. Mylens, you asked what is the life expectancy of leopards. Well, generally, a male leopard will live to about maybe 14 or 15 years old. That's a good age for a male leopard, and females on average a bit longer, maybe 16 or 17. Now it does depends on the amount of competition around, the amount of food, water. All of that needs to be taken into consideration. But generally, I'd say, male leopards between 13 and 15, and females a little bit older, up to about 17, between 15 and 17. Those are averages, though, everyone. There are times, there have been leopards, female leopards that have lived a bit longer, 18, I think, 18, somewhere around there, which is very long for a leopard. And then males, one of the oldest males I know lived to about 15, I think, almost 16. Oh, that's quite long for a male leopard too. And again, this is in the wild. I'm not sure about captivity. It's possibly different in captivity, but that I don't think that counts. Is a natural estimate. Obviously, try and see how long they live in their natural environment. James and a few other viewers, you all say this is Tamba. You believe this is Tamba. And I know some of you, especially when you do get a screenshot, you're able to identify these leopards very, very well. So, like I said, this looks a bit smaller than young Hosanna. Oh, wow. Look at that beautiful sunset. And the giraffe next to the trees. Those are the telephone poles. But perhaps we can pretend they're giraffe for the sake of the image. But beautiful sunset. Now you might see there's a bit of that very orange sky, and that's obviously dust. Particles in the sky at the moment. Beautiful sunset, and a lot of that dust was caused by Tristan this afternoon as he headed out of here on leave. The dust cloud that he left behind. I'm only joking. I hope Tristan has a wonderful break, a well-deserved break. We had a lot of fun the last few drives, him and I. Very pretty. Now this leopard is still got his head down at the moment, but I'm sure he'll move fairly soon. JDI, you asked if there's any plans for collaring the Juma leopards to study their movements. Not that I know of, JDI, and to be honest, I hope not. I really hope not. Now, the reason I say that, everyone, is because, in terms of movements and acts of these animals, we rely on tracking and finding them and following them. We then plot where they are seen so we get an idea of their territory size. So it's all done naturally. No technology is used, and I prefer it that way. You don't want to lose that wilderness experience, I think, and that's my personal opinion. I think if you start collaring too much and you start monitoring movements, it loses a bit of its wildness, I think. I mean, I don't know. It is important to obviously understand movements and do research on some of these animals, but you know what? I think there's enough research on leopards has been done over many, many years. There's no reason to do more. The movements that we see now is is natural movements, and it's nice for us to plot and get an idea. But there's no reason to collar more leopards, to follow movements, not in these areas, not in the greater Kruger at least. Maybe in other areas where they're trying to do research on new leopard populations, perhaps, like down in Cape Town, in the mountains in the Cape. Yeah, I can understand that. See how far and how large the territories are, because there aren't a lot of people down there, so that is important. But out here, there's no reason for that. You know, with game drives and the various lodges around and the trackers and guides, gives us a better idea of the movement of these animals without the use of technology. So I'm not sure how all of you feel about that. Now, there was that young male leopard, or that male leopard Sindile, who was collared when they had to treat him for rabies, though, because he killed a domestic dog that apparently had rabies, so he was treated. That's a different story. That people have interfered purely because of man's intervention. That domestic dog wouldn't have been around if there weren't people around here. So that is a different situation. That, yes, I agree on interference, but with the natural leopard, no, there's no need. I'm just going to wave to Brent's brother quickly. Hi, everyone. Brent's brother is guiding at the moment, and he